I'd like to introduce Martin Bollier, who's the Executive Director from SOPA. Martin, maybe if we could start by, if you just tell me something a little bit about your personal background, how you came to be where you are, and also something about what SOPA does and what your focus is.
I'm a food scientist by training, so I completed food scientist by training. I completed my PhD, like I would say 15 years ago, start in the food science industry, and work in a startup company doing bioactive ingredients for cosmetic and nutrition from peptides, from seaweeds, and so on. So basically now I'm with SOPA, which is an economical development organization based in Quebec, in the heart of the maritime cluster in Quebec and Rimouski. And basically what we are doing is really enabling business projects, most of them connected to marine science, in order to really bring projects to life with the partners.
And I asked the question of a colleague of yours from Quebec, and I think it's maybe something for just on geography. Quebec is a large province, and everybody knows Quebec city, but the province itself has got an enormous coastline, from what I remember.
Yeah, it's huge. You know, driving from Montreal to Rimouski, it's more than 5 hours. And you drive by the St. Lawrence River, so the estuary of the St. Lawrence River is in Rimouski, but if you look at the beginning of the St. Lawrence River in Montreal, this is more like a river. So we have a huge playground to work with.
And in terms of your company, what is the main focus for your business? But also in terms of what do you see as being the particular opportunities, and what are the main challenges that you as a business are facing going forward?
Yeah. In our case, the main challenge is the distance. You know, we are far away from big city centers. On the other hand, you know, we have a very nice structure for research. We are a research-based city with a university, a very small city, less than 50,000 inhabitants, but with a university, 5 research centers. So we can deliver very good science. And I think now the challenge is really to transfer that science from our research center to SMEs, for example.
And you talked about being at the center of the Biomarine cluster in Quebec. Was that something which was developed and orchestrated by the government, or was that something which developed because of private institutions and private donors coming together to form it? So was it privately led or governmentally led?
It was a joint effort, but it's coming from a vision 15 years ago, where the university started the Research Institute for Marine Science, and 10 years ago, the first research center. So this is why we are saying we are at the heart of it. And now it's going across Quebec, because we are currently working on the first national policy in Quebec regarding marine science.
Obviously, this is something which is very close to your heart. You've been involved in it for many, many years now. What is it that makes you get up in the morning and gets you to your desk and drives that passion for biomarine? What is it about this industry that really gets you excited?
I think this is the potential of the sector. You know, the projects we are working on are superb. You know, this is really great science, but great potential for application as well. I think this is a very nice reason to wake up in the morning.
And you talked about the science and the commercial opportunity. What is it? Is it the science that excites you more, or is it the commercial opportunity that excites you more?
I think you have to do both if you want to keep the fun up and running. You know, of course, science is great, and you can get very nice findings. But if you don't take that science to the market, you're missing a very nice part of the cycle. Because going to the market, seeing someone looking at your product and buying it is a great experience too.
What would you say to somebody who is interested in coming into the biomarine industry, perhaps coming through the scientific route? What advice would you give them, and what reason would you give them to come into the biomarine industry?
I think the untapped potential of the sector, someone who's willing, you know, to work and to have an open mind, you know, the potential of the biomarine is very big, and there's someone who's willing to take up challenges. This is a great sector.
If you took that crystal ball that you keep beside your bed and you could look 5, 10 years forward, what would be your, it's not so much your vision, but in your heart, what would you like to see the industry look like, let's say 10 years' time?
I think the changes are currently occurring. You know, the first conferences on the topic were more science-based. Now we're seeing more and more business-based approach, and some scientists really morphing from science to the business side of it. And I think in 10 years, if we can achieve more and more of this interaction, I think we will do a huge difference for the sector.
And that challenge of taking what is a great idea and science and making it a commercial reality, how do you make that happen? And in your mind, how are you delivering that within your business?
I think you just have to open the doors. You know, there's a lot of science sitting in labs, and we sadly, we're not good enough at presenting, transferring that information. You know, data now has a huge value, and we need to valorize those data into new applications and cross-fertilization using different type of science in order to move faster for the marine science as well.
Because you said that we are not good enough at bringing it from the lab and taking it out of the lab. Is that because, just explain a little bit more about that. Why is that the case, do you think?
I think there's a cultural thing. You know, if you look at engineers, you know, from their training, from their background, they are very good at application. Maybe as chemists, as biologists, we are not as good into transferring our findings into business. So I think there's a learning curve there we have to hit as well.
Martin, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. The second person I'd like to introduce people to is Christina Abdelgard, who is from the Research Council of Norway. Christina, I wonder if you could just start by introducing yourself, how you came to be where you are, and a little bit about what the Research Council of Norway does.
Thank you very much, Michael. I'm trained as a food scientist many years ago from the Agriculture University of Norway. My first job was in fact in a biomarine company. We were harvesting algae from the west coast of Norway. And I found it necessary to take a PhD, so I took a PhD in biotechnology. And then I also did research for a few years, and then I was in a dairy company in Norway. But I was very attracted to research, and when I was offered a job in the Research Council, I appreciated and said yes. So I had quite different kinds of jobs in the Research Council. It has been in financing food science, marine area, biotechnology, ICT, nanotechnology. And a few years ago, it was usually biotechnology. And I was also very involved in ethical discussions. And I was a member of the Biotechnology Advisory Board, which was very interesting when it comes to ethics. But then I was more and more fascinated by the marine area, which I really think it's very motivating to work within. So I was also a time in the Ministry of Trade and Industry and the Ministry of Fisheries and Coastal Affairs. So I have had quite a different jobs. And then it was a bit about the Research Council, yes. The Research Council, well, it's only one Research Council in Norway, and I think that gives us a very strength when it comes to advise the government give government strategic advice and also funding research. So approximately 30% of all public funding or research is allocated through the Research Council. And we have a budget today of approximately 1 billion euro for 2014. And we have a lot of different financial schemes, and we finance public R&D and private R&D, and we are very concerned about internationalization. And of course, marine research is one area of priority. You're
Norwegian, you've got a very large coastline. Why is the biomarine industry such a key part of the Norwegian economy and the Norwegian psyche, the Norwegian DNA?
Well, I think that's quite obvious when you look at the Norwegian country. Norway has a very, very long coastline, and we have much space in the oceans than it does on land. And we have a long history of using the oceans for all kinds of activities and shipping and fishing and so on. So the oceans is very important for our economic growth. And 40 years ago, we discovered the oil. So, I mean, we have been mainly living by the coastline, and the coast has been our way to reach the rest of the world. So, and I think we also really love the oceans, love the seas. So it is a part of our DNA, yes.
Similar question to the question that I asked Martin, that you talked about love of the sea and passion. For you, what is it about that gets you up in the morning and gets you in your car and gets you into work? What is that passion that drives you about this industry?
Well, I think the marine area, the ocean, is very, very exciting, and I think that's many reasons for that. One is that you have these marine resources, and you have to exploit the resources in a sustainable way. And I think this challenges you mentally. You cannot only just exploit it without taking into account how should you do it in a responsible way, because you will have these resources forever for next generations as well. So I think scientifically it's very interesting, and also morally it's very interesting, I think. So, and I think it's also a great potential, because you see there's a great pressure on land and different industrial activities on land, so you have to move to the oceans, and that's what we see. I mean, the energy supplies goes to the oceans, looking for mineral resources goes to the ocean. Now, for the first time in Rio Plus 20, they really acknowledge that the oceans are very important for food security. So it's great attention to the oceans. I think that's very exciting. And I like the dilemmas. I like that you have to consider a little bit, this is difficult, how should we handle it? I'm really attracted by those kind of things.
If you had your magic wand, your Harry Potter moment, yeah, and there was one thing that you could change within the industry or specific to the industry, what would it be?
Difficult question. I think that you have to recognize that the sustainable approach is decisive for economic increase. So I think that's one thing that everybody should be aware of. And also, I would really like to encourage the industry to communicate their mission and what they're doing, because as we talked in the last session, there is we really need to recruit the young people, and it's so interesting, and the oceans have so much to offer. So I think that the industry themselves, they must say, yes, it's so exciting to work here. I mean, you work with the oceans, they are great potential, it's prosperous, and it's also morally of great interest, because you have to have the sustainable approach.
And the final question, and it's and forgive me for asking it in this way, there are 5 people up here, 4 of us are men, and you're the only woman. What would you say to women and young girls who are interested in a career in the biomarine industry? What would your message to them be based on your experience?
Just go for it. I had only good experience, I think. And I was raised, we were 4 sisters, and my father was very concerned about that we should have an education, so we were encouraged to do that. And I think that's lovely. And I think that also you have to have education, and I would advise well, I should not say that you have to take a PhD, but it's an advantage to be well knowledge. In Norway, maybe it's not that decisive, but when you go internationally, I think that there is good to show that you have some research background, and yeah, thank you.
Christina, thank you very much indeed. Now the spotlight turns to Pierre Keleha, who's the CEO of Fermentalg. Pierre, I wonder if you could just start by, again, just introducing yourself to the audience, a little bit about how you came to be where you are, and something about what your company does.
Thank you, Michael. Regarding my career, I start to work in the years 80s in the first fish farm which was built in France. And in that fish farm, we have started to produce the first sea bass, sea bream, and turbot. That was quite an exciting experience. And this was the beginning of the years 80s, so you see it's not so far. Before that, we were not able to produce marine fishes. And then I joined France Aquaculture, which is the commercial part of Ifremer. And within France Aquaculture, we have developed many fish farm hatcheries all over the world for marine fishes, but as well for shrimp. And after that, at the end of the years 90, I have created my first company, which was also in the field of aquaculture. And this time I was more providing consumable for the industry, for the hatcheries. Up to the years 2000, where I have started that company, Fermentalg. And inside Fermentalg, we are working with microalgae. We have developed a new technology, a new generation of production of that microalgae.
And I know that we were chatting earlier over coffee that you were, I think, the founder of Fermentalg. It was your idea, so the science part. Then you've now commercialized the business, and you IPO'd it in April. I wonder, in terms of the structure and the shape of your business, and it's changed from the very early days when it was just you and a couple of other people. Then you had your initial funding, and now the IPO. You as a founder, entrepreneur, owner, how has it changed for you as you've gone down this journey?
Well, that's a terrible change from a paper and to be alone to what is now Fermentalg. We are about 60 people and with very huge facilities, a lot of doctors, engineers, and so this was made in 4 years. So that's a huge growth, and now we are on the market, on the stock market. Of course, it's a very special growth, and it's not so easy to manage such change every day. And this affect even your life. I was explaining that to you, Michael, that when I start the company in a very small garage nearby my house, and now this house is in the middle of a site about 2 hectares, and the shareholders told me now, okay, you cannot live anymore in that house, you have to move from your house. So yes, it's a very exciting story.
And are you less involved in the science now and more involved in the management and the commercial part of the business? And you've got investors that you've got to manage as well. And are you disappointed by that? Do you miss the contact with the lab and the science?
Well, no, I am still involved in the science. Inside Fermentalg, I think we have proved that the microalgae are not vegetables, and they are not animals too. We have proved that the microalgae are something between animals and between vegetables. And this is something new. When I was at the university, I learned from the right you have the animals, from the left you have the vegetables. And now we understand that this is not so true. And there is some animals or vegetables like microalgae which are hybrids. And it's very interesting, and every day we learn more about that, and we understand that yes, there is something between animals and vegetables. That's very interesting, and I am still connected to that.
For all those entrepreneurs who are out there, who are thinking about starting up their own business, you've done it a few times, you've done it very successfully now. What would be one piece of advice that you would give to the entrepreneur who is thinking about setting up a business in Biomarine?
Maybe I will say, don't listen people around you who say don't do it, and just listen yourself and do it. Even if you don't know where you go, you don't know what happened. Who was able to tell me 4 years ago that I will have to leave my house? No one, and even not me, I was not even thinking about that. But okay, it's just move, do it, just do it.
And final question. I asked Christina, what would she change? If you had a magic wand, the Harry Potter moment, and you could change one thing, what would it be?
That's a very difficult question, Michael. If I was possible to change something. I would say that I'm not very happy with the way how we produce sometime and the quality of what we do sometime. I am thinking even with the biomarine production, the idea that we catch the fish to make protein, to feed the fish, I'm not very happy with that. And maybe with the microalgae, we will change something about that.
Pierre, thank you very much indeed.
Michael.
And finally, I'd like to introduce Jean-Pierre Rivery, who's the CEO of IDMER. Jean-Pierre, perhaps as for the other three panelists, if you could just begin by describing your journey to your position as CEO and also exactly what your organization, your company does.
Okay, thank you. My background is biochemistry and agronomic, and I start my business in poultry, in valorization of byproduct coming from poultry, and step by step we put more innovation, more process, more technology, more international, and we develop some specific ingredients for palatability for dogs and cats. 15 years after, we have a leader position in the world, 55% market share in palatability for dogs and cats, more 15 plants producing everywhere in the world, near the raw material, near the customer, and adapting the process locally. And for me, it's very important to be global and to be local.
And on that subject about being both global and local, starting off as a French company and then growing and expanding beyond the borders of France, what lessons have you learned about how to be successful on the international stage?
In fact, reactivity, agility, modesty. I am a French guy, so it's difficult to say that, but I have to accept that. And in each country, you have to use the best you have in each country. If we talk about fish, for example, the fat content of sardine in Portugal is different in Morocco, is different in Brittany, so we have to adapt the process. And we have to use the know-how, the partner, local. Local is very important for me. I repeat.
And in your role today, what is it that occupies most of, when you hit the office in the morning, how do you spend most of your time each day? Is there one thing or a number of things that grab your focus every day?
Now, in fact, it's not exactly in the morning, because when you have some plant everywhere in the world, you have no morning, no evening. So always the machine is running, even when you are sleeping. So it's very interesting. No, it's very important to be in contact regularly with the guys you have in each country. Against the best guys to talk about Brazil, for example, is my guys in Brazil. Portugal is the same. If we are talking about Europe, Portugal is different than France, it's different than Spain, so we have to take that in consideration. So for me, it's very important to do that and to keep at the spirit this way of thinking.
You've got a strong market share. You said 55% of the global market. It's extremely good. What are the opportunities and what are the challenges for your business going forward?
The opportunities is the blue economic, for me, is very important. For example, when you you eat a chicken, a fish, you have around 50% you waste 50% of the raw material. So it's a huge opportunity to develop new business, new opportunity, new protein, new amino acid, new peptide, and it's a good opportunity to make a good business. It's possible to make a lot of business, good business, safety business, sustainable business with byproduct. And maybe the byproduct becomes a more important product in the world.
And The question I put to both Martin and also Christina is, what is it that drives you out of bed every morning? What is the passion that you feel about your business and the biomarine industry in particular?
The passion for me is the people. Without people, it's not possible to do something. And as we spend 200% of the time on the business, you have to enjoy the people. And it's not possible to do something great without people. Alone, you are nothing. You have seen, for example, here, we have a lot of competencies, a lot of exchange, and thanks to Pierre for that, because he make a good opportunity for us, for everybody. So for me, people, it's key for the success.
And the last question, and perhaps the most important question of all, is I'm British and you're French. But who's going to win the rugby this year?
No, I have no choice to be French. I am European, guys, because we are in Portugal, so you have to be more European, in fact.
We'll see, huh? We'll see. The jury's out on that one. Martin, Christina, Pierre, Jean-Pierre, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.